Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Black World Club podcast. I'm Esther,
I'm Gabi.
And I'm Katelynn.
and today we'll be talking about imposter syndrome. But first, as a note, you're listening to this on the Wisby's 90.1 FM Stony Brook station. Okay, so imposter syndrome. I guess we'll just start off with what it means to each of us. Me, Esther, I'll just say first that it's something that I feel is a perfect word to describe just whenever you feel like whenever you kind of question your presence in a certain context or situation. And I feel like as college students it happens all the time, especially depending on your field.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of sort of comparing yourself or your experiences to like the next person, and I think specifically like on a college campus, that feeling it just becomes like exacerbated because like you're introduced to like uh just like so many other people you're normally not accustomed to or like you're normally not surrounded by like in your niche environment like back home or like in your high school or just like your neighborhood or anything. So it becomes a lot more difficult to navigate like your place amongst these other people.
Yeah, like just not feeling like you have to work harder than everyone else. I feel like, in my opinion, just because when I feel my imposter syndrome, like I'm just like I definitely feel like, oh, like I don't belong here. Like I'm not as prepared, or I didn't get as many like benefits as like some other people, like specifically in college. Like, a lot of people, like they come from, my major is journalism, like they had like a high school paper, and this is like the first time I'm working with a newspaper. So that's like something that comes up like in my college experience a lot.
Yeah, same. I'm political science, and it's also just like things like internships and just connections that people had. Um, yeah, it could definitely, and you know that you're qualified. You know that you have like, it's not like people are quote unquote smarter than you or anything like that, but it's just like a mental thing that gets in your head.
Yeah, I feel like it's low key like an insecurity that comes out,
Sure.
because at least I feel like it comes from my insecurities, because I'll that come into college, like I was like, oh, I'm so prepared, I did all this, whatever, and then you see other people and they're just like casually talking about this. It's just like, like I didn't really do that, I didn't really get a chance to do that. So it's like you just feel like, wow, like am I not supposed to be here right now? Like, how did I get in here? Was it a fluke? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of like when you enter spaces like that, it kind of feels like, I don't know, like when you're black sometimes in a lot of these like predominantly white spaces, it's like, oh, were they just looking to fill a quota, or like are they just looking to check a box, or like are you the like sprinkle of like diversity? And I think that mentality, like you kind of can't help but not feel that way, because like I don't know, like in a lot of my classes I just feel like being like the only like black person like in the room or like in the space, it kind of just feels like, I don't know, I want to phrase this in a way that like makes sense, but like
It's an unsaid thing too.
yeah,
Like,
because it's
that's
kind
why
of just
it's
like you
hard
feel
to
like you kind of have to
describe.
like pull your weight more than like the next white person.
Right.
And it's like you're doing more of like the work.
yeah, I feel like low-key, like I just feel like when I walk into a classroom for the first time, I feel like I have to set I already set myself to a standard. Like I can't come into class late, or they're gonna think like I'm a slacker, or like if I'm not as proactive in class as like everybody else, then they're gonna view me as like, oh, I don't really care about school, or I don't know how to write, I don't know how to do all these things, but I do. Like that's why I chose like this major, and I want to do this, and I know I'm good at it. But then it's in those times that you set yourself to those standards, which can be a good or a bad thing. Like, because it's good because you're watching yourself grow, you know, but then it's bad in a way that, like, you know, you put too much pressure on yourself, and it's like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the good part I feel is really, it's outweighed by a lot of the bad, because like you
Yeah.
should, if you as a student, you you miss an assignment, you're late or whatever, it should just be that you as a student did that. It shouldn't be like you as a black
Right.
girl, as a black person, as the representation of all black people, or going against, yeah, the standard.
I mean, like, in a way, like, if I were to have, like, some of the things that, like, other students, depending on their, like, race or just, like, financial, like, whatever they're at, right, like, when they grew up, like, versus if I did those same things, in a way, like, it is more, like, it should be more substantial. Like, my school, we didn't have, like, any of those things. I went out and I found programs and I did it myself, and I, you know, so I feel like them, they just had it, like, that was an extra credit class. Like, I feel like it is different, but I also don't want it to be like, when you get to college, it's viewed the same, like, you did it, oh, so did they. So it's not like, that's not really put into, like, I guess, perspective.
I mean, I feel like then that means it's like a balance, because yeah, you can't really, just with the way the world works, yeah, you do have to work hard, because sadly you will be judged for it, but at the same time, we have to work hard to not try to live by that standard, which is a balance, you know? It's like, yeah, like, oh, is this just the way things are, or am I going to try to change it, and when I make mistakes, I don't feel like I should have, like, worked hard. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, are you going to live by the standard? You kind of feel like you have to, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, like, it becomes, at least in my experience, it's like I become more conscious of just, like, my presentation, and, like, I have to become more, like, aware of, like, the way in which I take up space, because it's like we all take up space. That's very real, but it's like when you're put in positions, like, in class or just, like, other school functions or, like, school events and stuff like that, where, like, you end up being sort of the only, like, black person or the only, like, black girl in the room. It's like you just become more, like, aware of, like, you, like, in, not in opposition, but almost, like, in, like, a duality to them, sort of. And, like, it could be something as little as, like, I don't know, just, like, hair or, like, an outfit or just, like, literally any of those things. And, like, I just become, like, hyper aware of just, like, that dichotomy between the two. And then it makes me sort of, like, wonder, like, oh, is this other person, like, conscious of that dichotomy in the way that I am? Or am I just overthinking that because of, like, you know, my position or whatever?
I feel like I see that a lot, like, just, like, in the communication with, like, people who didn't grow up the same way I grew up. Just, like, you know, like, there was this one time where I literally just said to someone, like, oh, what you mean? Like, oh, what you mean? Like, I feel like I feel like that's just something that, like, oh, like, not necessarily, like, oh, like, what do you mean by that? Like,
yeah,
it was kind of just like that, and they were just like, oh, I didn't mean anything by it, oh my god, like, and it's moments like that I'm just like, it really, for me, my imposter syndrome comes out, because I'm just like, wow, I gotta watch what I say, because I didn't grow, these people, like, I gotta talk differently around them, because they're gonna misconstrue everything I said. I gotta be extra like, articulate when I speak, you know?
Yeah. No, that's fun. Well, not funny but something similar happened to me, exactly that, and I could tell the person got a little, yeah, they took it the wrong way, which kind of makes me think, even like with the angry black woman stereotype, trying to always be, like, I feel like for myself, I've tried to be really nice and, like, bubbly and give off that energy, but it's like too, like, in the past, I feel like I've overdone it to make up for that angry black woman stereotype. So, yeah, it's interesting how, yeah, you feel like an imposter, and then you can kind of try to change how you present yourself and how you take up space.
that's another thing too. It's like, literally in what you were saying about like having to be sort of like bubbly or just like present in that way, because like you're really not allowed to be like upset or like mad or like have like a little bit like of an off day without it being like taken as something like just very that just like an angry black woman. Like you're not allowed to sort of like have anxiety or sort of just want to be quiet or like anything. Like immediately it's like she has an attitude or she's stuck up or any of that, and that's literally just because like you're a black girl, and that's really that. I don't know, and I feel like that's just like such a weird sort of thing to navigate, because it's like then you have to perform, and it's like then I'm in a space and I don't feel like I'm genuinely being like who I am or presenting in a way that like I want to be, because like literally just have to perform.
And they're what, like, this is we're living on campus, like, that means you got to be that way at the dining hall, in your class, if you're like with your roommates, if they're from like somewhere else than you, like when do you get to rest? Like that's putting a lot of like mental, like, I guess, like I gotta jump through hoops every day just to fit in, or just to feel like, oh, I belong here. Like that's wrong.
And that would only feed into you feeling, that would only fuel the imposter syndrome within.
Going the wrong way on a one-way street. Going the wrong way on a one-way street.
How do you guys feel like you've tried to move away from that kind of thinking? Like any tips or anything you're working on?
I feel like it's still there low key, just like definitely less, because I've realized like, okay, like there's like I grew up differently. I don't have to change, but then like for like certain things there is like that little bit of, you know, insecurity where I'm just like, ooh, like I didn't do that, or this person got like, oh, they went out and got this like internship, whatever, I gotta work extra hard, you know, I gotta do this, whatever, like. And it's like, whereas like you feel like, oh, I gotta work this much, just as hard as them, or even better than them, just to be at the same place as them sometimes. Not necessarily because of like, just, I guess because I feel like I gotta catch up sometimes. Where really, like, you know, it's okay to just, you know, use your winter break as a break. You don't have to do 2 internships and all this stuff. Like, you don't have to do that, but you know, I think that to myself, like, I'm like, okay, you know, it's okay to take a break, you know, but, you know, in the back of my head, I'm like, I should be applying to some internships, but, yeah.
Real talk, I don't really know if there's a way to, like, deal with it, because even if it doesn't present itself, like, in the context of, like, a college campus, like, it very well presents itself, like, in every other, like, facet, like, of life or, like, space, or mainly like, what's it called, like when it comes to like intersectionality and stuff like that, like maybe it doesn't come up in like what's it called, like maybe it doesn't come up in terms of like class or something like that, but it could come up easily like in like your day-to-day, or like just like in your neighborhood, and I just think that's like a feeling that it can't really ever escape, because like it just doesn't. I think it's really one of those things that's like prevalent like in everyday day-to-day situations. So I think it's just a matter of being aware of that, and like that's all that you really can do, is just like acknowledge the fact that it's happening, and like not be like delusional towards the situation, and just sort of like take it for what it is, and just navigate that however you choose, but just like remaining aware of that, I think, is the best thing.
I would say maybe just basically low-key is like an affirmation, because you're just saying, you just say to yourself, like, I belong here, I deserve to be here, I've worked hard to get here, you know, like something like that. Where I don't know, whereas like for the workplace and stuff like that, I understand it might still come up, but like don't change yourself unless you really have to. Like me, like learning how to be more articulate, like that was like, yeah, I'm not like, I didn't grow up like speaking, I guess, proper English or whatever like
Standard
that, whatever.
English,
Yeah, whatever you want to say. But like, yeah, so I was just like, if I'm going to be a journalist, then I should learn how to speak properly. Or not properly, but at least a way that more people can understand what I'm saying, But you don't have to change yourself in day-to-day life, or even like doing a podcast. Like, you shouldn't have to change yourself or how the world's gonna view you. Like, I don't think that's necessary. Like, I just learned like how to, I guess I had a lisp, so I just learned to talk through that a little bit. Breathe more when I'm speaking.
That's important.
But don't change like something really important about yourself, like an accent that you grew up with, or like, like even some slang. Like, you don't have to like, oh, I can't use slang around white people, or like, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna, to that point, like, so it's, you're not changing yourself. Like, for example, with you, like, learning to speak the more, like, standardized form of English, that's not, that's kind of adding another skill, just adding, like, experiences.
But not erasing what you had before.
Right.
Let yourself shine through, like, because that's also what's making you different from everyone else.
Yeah.
You don't want to, like, the whole thing about, like, the imposter syndrome is wanting to feel like you belong, but not belonging is what makes you stand out. That's what's going to get you to where you need to go.
I mean, there's not really, like, one official final way to deal with something like imposter syndrome. But yeah, I definitely agree with you guys too. And yeah, just staying true to who you are, because you'll always be in this body, so you'll always have the stereotypes stacked against you. But it's like, just know who you are and keep with that, and add to yourself.
Affirmation,
right?
And for any insecurity, not just like imposter syndrome. Like, it sounds corny, like, because I really thought it was corny, but just like, every time you get that negative thought, someone told me, like, every time you get a negative thought bubble, just pop it. And I was like, oh my god, no. Like, but corny, it's but it makes sense, like, to just be like, oh, I don't belong here, and just be like, you do belong here. You worked hard, and it changes, like, your mind literally changes, like, the way it works.
The self-talk,
It's the same thing with confidence that works for, like, everything.
Yeah, I think just remain sort of unapologetic in taking up that space, because, like, there's really just no other way around it. Like, it's useless to sort of, like, I guess, like, dim down your light or something like that, or make yourself, like, more palatable. Like, that is just counterproductive, I think, to, the whole thing, and to yourself, and it's a disservice to, like, you as a person. So yeah, I think just, like, remaining unapologetic and just, like, firm in your presence in these spaces, and just knowing who you are in terms of that.
Amen.
Right.
I feel like we've talked about a lot. I don't know if you guys have anything to add or anything. I feel like that was a good note, though, to wrap up on. So yeah, guys, that was the first episode of our podcast. You're watching this on the WSB 90.1 FM Stony Brook station. Have a good day, guys, and remember, affirm yourself, be confident, and have those affirmations. Bye.
Bye.